Hey guys, I'm Ethan Moore from Stockholm Supply, and today I want to show you how to make the perfect bowl blank. And I'm going to be using this log right here. Now, this log right here isn't the greatest thing to do because I got a split right through the pith there. But what I want to show you is how to, with our products here, the Little Ripper, the Round Ripper, and the Round-2-It Faceplate, how we're going to turn this log into a perfect bowl blank. So the first thing I'm going to do is get the log mounted in the Little Ripper here. Now I'm pretty much forced to cut right along this crack here. So what I'll do is I'm going to line the log up in the jaws of the Little Ripper so that crack is in line with the blade here. So once I got it relatively close here, let me make sure I got enough capacity. I'm going to bring this end up to my blade and make sure I got it as straight as I can, that crack as straight as I can with the blade here. Right about there, lock that in place. So get that nice and tight with that bark. Now on the back side, what I'll do is I'm going to lift this all the way around. Now you won't be able to see with the camera in that position there, but what I'm going to do here is just get about halfway through the log. Now this is a crotch here, so it's got two different piths on this end here. If this was just a straight log, I just line it up with the pith and cut it right out the center. But yeah, now that we got that set up, we're going to cut it right along that crack, and we're going to end up with two half logs here. Right about there. Oh, we got a few little visitors in there. Obviously there's a few ants. That's okay, they're not going to hurt anything. So now that we got this cut in half, we can cut a circle out of it here. We'll avoid where the ant's nest is here. There or right down in that crack. And we'll make a bowl blank with my round ripper. Okay, so the ants were concentrated on one side of that log, so I chose the log here that was pretty well ant-free. But I'm just going to cut this in half, so I'm going to end up with two different bowl blanks. I'm just going to rip it in half real quick here. Alright, so now we'll go ahead and grab my round ripper and we'll make a bowl blank out of this nice little piece right here. Okay, now one thing I didn't mention while I was resawing that, you probably noticed as I was cutting the log in half, how accurate I was cutting. The ants kind of distracted me there. But what I'll do is I'll link a video up on top that kind of explains why I'm able to cut so straight. But I have this nice flat face here now. So with our new round ripper, you can quickly remove that center point, and we'll just lay this blank down flat on the base here. Let me turn the drive shaft up there. And then what I'll do is I'm just going to find the approximate center. If I wanted, I could mark this so I got the exact center, but we'll say that's pretty good there. And I'm just going to drive this pin down, or this screw, right down through that bark, and we'll get that thread going right into the wood here. Alright, right there. And then what we can do is lift that drive shaft up here, and I'm going to put my center point right back in there. Now, if your center point is not removable on your round ripper, you can just use two strips of wood to support your blank. But this is going to ensure that that is nice and flat and consistent all the way along, and that center point is right nicely in the center here. Now, a couple cool things are going to happen here when I go ahead and cut this. One, that little screw point on the top is the perfect center, which will be my perfect circle. And number two, that little center point in the bottom is the perfect center on the bottom. So I actually have the perfect axis through my bowl, which is going to come into play when we go and mount that on the lathe. And the other kind of cool thing is, because I'm holding the bowl blank by the top and the bottom here, I can actually tilt my table, and that's going to allow me to cut a tapered bowl blank. Now, a tapered bowl blank, that would be less material I'd need to remove with my lathe, and potentially, if that's a very nice piece of wood, that'll leave a little bit more left over to do something else. So yeah, let's line this up. We'll make this blank as big as I can. A nice tapered blank here, we'll lock that there. And yeah, this blank's gonna be about 5-inch diameter on the bottom and more like 6 inches on the top. I got some markings on the base of the round ripper that are showing that, but we're good to go ahead and cut. Now, one thing that I didn't mention as I was cutting, but if you paid attention to where my hand was, it's way up here when I'm turning that blank. So one other nice thing about using the round ripper here, your hands are always quite far away from the blade. But my blank is going to look like this. Let's get rid of this guy here. And when I unscrew this here, that there is my perfect blank. So a perfect circle, and we got our perfect centers in the top and the bottom here. So now we'll go ahead and mount this on my lathe. Okay, so now that we got the bowl blank cut here, I have my Round-2-It Faceplate. Now if you look at that screw in the, in the center here, I have the exact same screw that you'll find on our round ripper. So that same screw is going to thread right into the top of my blank here. Now I don't want to thread it too far in because I don't want this to be a little on an angle here, but right about here will be perfect. So then with the hub on the back, we can slide that right into our 4-jaw chuck with your standard 2-inch dovetail jaws. And then the last thing I'll do, just to make sure it all stays nice and balanced here, I'm going to bring my Lathe center and I'm going to bring it up right to that mark I made on the bottom with my round ripper, and I can drive that in. So with this Round-2-It faceplate, I got a couple pointed bolts here, or spikes. So if I tighten these spikes, that's going to tighten right through the bark and into the wood. And that's going to do a very good job of holding that blank in place. And I can do the same thing on this side here. So this does a very good job of holding an unusual shaped piece here. Okay. So that blank is ready to have a tenon turned onto it here. So I'll turn it on and give you an idea of how nice it's going to bounce here. So with that perfect axis through the center of the blank here, so I got the center point in the front and the back, that's going to balance up really, really nice. And because I was cut in essentially a perfect circle, normally when you're starting a blank, you'd maybe start at about 400. But you can go a whole lot faster than that. That there's 1,000 RPM or a little over that, and it's still balancing really, really nicely. But yeah. I didn't realize that this bark has actually come loose. So if I were to remount this, I would take the bark off before I mount it, and that'll actually let those screws drive in a little bit nicer. rather than through that bark that's a little bit loose. But yeah, that's how I mount and cut a perfect bowl blank for your lathe. So with the perfect center on the front, perfect center on the back, and the perfect diameter, that's going to balance out really nice when you go and mount it on your lathe. So yeah, if anybody else has any questions, you can email me at info@stockhamsupply.com or just comment on the video. Thanks for watching.